In the midst of a violent storm, as Ukrainian skies darkened and the ground trembled under the force of heavy rain, a convoy of Russian armored vehicles raced towards safety, a slow march to their destination. But what they didn't know was that they were about to step into a death trap, and the storm wasn't the only thing threatening to tear them apart. Sound of a fighter jet's engines roaring to life, and in just 90 seconds, everything would change. Sound of wind howling, rain pounding the earth. In eastern Ukraine, the sky was alive with the fury of a storm. The kind of storm that could make men pray for safety, but for the Russian armored column, it was just a temporary inconvenience. They pushed forward down a muddy dirt road near Konstantinovka, the heart of their offensive. Their mission, march toward a safe zone where concrete structures would shield them from Ukrainian forces. A simple task, or so they thought. The column was over 400 meters long, stacked with 18 armored vehicles, T-72 tanks, BMP infantry fighting vehicles, and BTR armored personnel carriers. At the rear, two deadly BMP-T Terminators scanned the skies for threats. These weren't ordinary tanks. They were engineered specifically to destroy aircraft. Sound of vehicles roaring, the crunch of mud under heavy treads. But unknown to the Russian forces, Ukrainian reconnaissance had been watching. They knew the storm was clearing. And as the skies began to break open, they knew the window of opportunity was closing fast. Sound of an aircraft's cockpit, instruments beeping, comms crackling. 60 kilometers away at a forward airbase, a Ukrainian SU-25 Frogfoot pilot sat in his cockpit, eyes fixed on the radar. He'd been briefed. He knew the Russian convoy was moving, and he knew he had one shot to destroy it. The Su-25, a flying tank, was built to take punishment, to survive in the most dangerous skies. With a payload of bombs and rockets, it was the perfect weapon for this mission, but the stakes couldn't be higher. The Russian forces were ready, anti-air systems were locked on. Any misstep, any delay, and this attack could be his last. Sound of the pilots breathing, heavy with tension. The mission was clear: destroy the convoy before it reached cover, but it wasn't going to be easy. Those Terminators weren't just tanks, they were death machines, designed to shred aircraft out of the sky. Dual 30mm autocannons, grenade launchers, and anti-tank missiles that could reach 8 kilometers. These machines were built to survive exactly this kind of attack. The pilot checked his systems. Weapons armed, fuel at 2,400 kils, enough for one attack run. The Gardenia 1 electronic countermeasures pod showed green, but he knew this wouldn't be enough. Russian air defenses would be on him in seconds. Sound of jet engines howling, rain still pouring down in the distance. He climbed to 4,000 meters, using the dissipating rain clouds as cover. His radar signature was masked by the storm, but it wouldn't last. He had to make his move now. Through his targeting pod, the Russian column came into view. The lead Terminator scanned the sky, its turret rotating, searching for the threat, but it hadn't spotted him yet. The pilot's heart raced as he calculated his attack. He dove in from 4,000 meters, inverted, accelerating past 600 kilometers per hour. The Soviet doctrine, high-speed dive release at 1,500 meters. The plan was simple: attack hard, pull out fast. But as soon as he committed to the dive, the Russian systems detected him. The Binmare lit up, tracking his radar emissions. Within seconds, he was a target, his coordinates transmitted to Russian SAM batteries and artillery units awaiting his arrival. Sound of a radar warning blaring, the cockpit shaking with intensity. The pilot's threat receiver screamed in his ear. He had 60 seconds before the missiles would lock on, but there was no turning back now. Sound of the bombs dropping, explosions, metal twisting. At 1,500 meters, the pilot released his first Fab 250 bomb. The explosion tore through the road ahead of the lead tank, creating a massive crater that swallowed it whole. The T-72 plowed into the hole, its tracks snapping with a deafening crack. Before the tank commander could react, the second bomb fell. It hit directly between two BMP infantry fighting vehicles. The ground shook as they were lifted into the air. One flipped onto its side, its hatch blown open. The other crashed back to the earth, its tracks shredded, immobile. But the pilot wasn't finished. He triggered the S-8 rocket pods, 80 unguided rockets, each capable of causing devastation across a 100-meter impact zone. The rockets screamed downward, some striking vehicles directly, others detonating on the road, creating a carpet of explosions. Sound of rockets launching, deafening explosions. A BTR was torn apart by the rocket hits, its engine compartment erupting in flames. Another rocket hit the ammunition storage of a BMP, causing a massive internal explosion. Turrets flew into the air as the vehicle was consumed by fire. But the real danger was behind him. The Terminators had started firing. Dual 30mm autocannons roared, sending shells into the air with deadly precision. The pilot pulled into a sharp turn, feeling the G-forces press him into his seat. The aircraft shuddered as shrapnel pinged off the tail section. Sound of the jet speeding low to the ground. The roar of artillery in the distance. The threat was far from over. The pilot dropped chaff and flares, trying to confuse the incoming missiles. At 200 meters above the ground, racing at over 700 kilometers per hour, he dove into valleys, using terrain masking to break the radar locks. Behind him, 2 missiles launched from the Tor battery, speeding toward their target. But the pilot was too fast, too unpredictable. One missile overshot, self-destructing. The other followed a chaff cloud into empty air. Sound of artillery shells bursting in the distance, the deafening hum of the Su-25 pushing through. The pilot pulled hard on the stick, the Su-25 screaming through the air, the threat receiver now silent. For 90 seconds, he'd fought through hell, and now, he was out. The mission was a success. Sound of silence, heavy breathing, distant explosions. The convoy lay in ruins. 12 Russian armored vehicles destroyed, 6 more damaged, but their crews scattered. The lead tank was stuck in a crater. The BTR was a burning wreck. And those 2 Terminators, once thought to be indestructible, were crippled, their systems fried by rocket fire. As the pilot returned to base, the adrenaline faded, and reality set in. His aircraft was battered, but it had survived. His mission had been a success, but it had come at a cost. The Su-25's reputation as a flying tank was well earned, and this mission would go down as one of the most daring and precise strikes of the war. Sound of the jet engines fading as the story winds down. In the days that followed, Russian forces attempted to recover what they could from the wreckage, but the damage was done. The Ukrainian strike had crippled an entire battalion's offensive capability before it even began. The column commander's request for air support, recovery vehicles, and artillery suppression was met with silence. Ukrainian forces, armed with the precision of a single pilot, had turned the tide. As analysts pored over the wreckage and reviewed drone footage, they asked the same question NATO had been asking for months. How does Ukraine keep doing this? The answer was simple. When you're fighting for survival, impossible becomes just another word for necessary. This is modern warfare. It's not armies clashing on open fields. It's about individual determination, about a single pilot threading through air defenses, delivering precision strikes that can change the course of an entire operation. And as another Ukrainian Su-25 climbs into the sky, another convoy thinks it's safe. But as history has shown, underestimating determination can be deadly. Fade out with the sound of a distant jet engine, as the screen fades to black.